Welcome to the video, everyone. Thanks so much for joining me today. This video will be focusing on barcodes. So, sounds boring, and it is a boring topic. It's one of the most boring parts of Amazon FBA, but where do we source our barcodes from? How do we do it safely and in line with Amazon's terms of service? Seems to be a common question which I am asked, and I want to address it to give you guys clarity on the subject and ease your mind when it comes to creating your first product listing. So I hope you enjoy the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Welcome to the video, everyone. Thanks very much for joining me today. Please like the video and comment below if you've got any questions about the topic. I'll do my best to answer you, or if you've got any sort of video suggestions for the future. So in this video, I want to look at the topic of barcodes, right? Something that is discussed widely amongst the Amazon FBA community. There's a lot of confusion around it, quite rightly so. I found it very confusing when I started, so I hope to explain to you today, where you should get your barcodes sourced from, what they're used for, and how you can create an FN SKU, or your Amazon FBA barcode, we'll call it, for your Amazon listing. So hopefully I can address those today, right? I know it sounds like a boring topic, and it is a little bit boring, but it's very important, super important if you're a seller or when you're starting to sell on Amazon FBA. So you'll probably be aware that if you sell on Amazon, right, you sell a product on Amazon, you're going to need a barcode. Now, Amazon require you to get a barcode because they need to know that you are the owner of that product, right? They want to have the product that you're selling assigned to you as a company or an individual. So that's why they require you to have a barcode for your product. Now, there's a right way and a wrong way to source barcodes. And you probably imagine that the right way is the more expensive way, or the dearer way, and the cheaper way is the wrong way. So just to give you an idea of what the wrong way is. So you can source your barcodes from a place called Barcode Mania, or a website called Barcode Mania, or similar companies that sell sort of inauthentic, knockoff, secondhand barcodes, right? They claim to be authentic, and they claim to be a lot of things, but they're not, right? So that's the wrong way of doing things. Now, typically you can get one of these barcodes for sort of £3.99 for one, or £7.99 for a pack of 5, and they send them over via email, right? Lots of people use these barcodes, and they do work, right? You can have them. You can create a listing using these barcodes, and you may not have any problems, right? May be in the operative word there. So and I'm going to give you a little story in this video as well of an experience I've had where I got into some trouble with both of these options. So the second option, which is the right option, something that I have to advocate, is using GS1, right? Now, GS1 is a company that's partnered up with Amazon, and they're the official distributor of barcodes for Amazon, right? So Amazon tell you as a seller, the only place that you can get or source your barcodes is from gs1.org.uk. Now, we'll refer to a barcode sort of throughout the video as an EAN number, European article number, or 12 or 13-digit number that you see underneath the barcode, right? If you're sort of in the shops having a browse, you can see the number is underneath the barcode. So now, let me give you, first of all, an example of something that happened to me when I was first getting started on Amazon. So 2 years ago, they tightened up their barcode policy, right? They started to encourage and sort of stipulate that the only way that you are legally allowed to sell on Amazon is by sourcing barcodes from GS1. Before that point, they were quite lax. They weren't very stringent at all. I didn't have any information on GS1 when I started over 2 years ago, and I used a barcode for my first product from Barcode Mania. Now, I listed my product, and the product went live. Everything was fine. A couple of months went by. I gained some reviews. I might have had 20 reviews on the listing, I think, at the time, and everything was going quite well, right? I'd had a lot of sales. My listing was starting to rank organically for a lot of my long-tail keywords. It was going really well. And then I was browsing through my Seller Central, and I noticed a notification from Amazon, or a warning, underneath the product ID section, which is where you put your EAN number in. It said, and it still does say in red, if this EAN number is not sourced directly from GS1, then when our catalog team is indexing all of our sellers' products, it will flag up as not being registered with GS1, and the listing will be suppressed, and your seller privileges may also be removed, right? So I started to panic, obviously, as a new seller, thinking, what have I done wrong? How can I fix this? And, you know, there are not a lot of options fixing a listing that's got an incorrect product ID once it's established. So I was told by Amazon initially that you could just change the number. Amazon told me seller support are notoriously poor at giving information, or that they are notorious for giving poor information, in fact. And she told me to just change it, right? Change the barcode number to the new GS1 number. I then, you know, checked again before doing anything. I always like to have a second opinion, and I was told explicitly not to do that. It can damage the listing. Your inventory can become lost within fulfillment by Amazon or within the centers, and it can cause a lot of trouble, right? Your listing can basically just disappear. So this actually happened to a friend of mine who changed it after being told the same thing, and literally his inventory went to zero. The whole listing was just ruined. So basically, I didn't do that, but I was aware that I needed to have a listing with a GS1 authorized barcode. Now the problem was, I couldn't just create a new listing and send in inventory, because I wanted to retain all the reviews, the ranking for that listing, and the sales history, right? So I needed to keep that listing, but I needed the numbers to change. Now, I went through a slightly complicated process whereby I actually created a new listing with the correct GS1 EAN number, and merged my old listing, or my existing listing, merged it to the new one. I didn't do this myself, it was done from seller support. And what we were able to do was retain all the data points on the initial listing, so all my sales history, all of my reviews, etc. Retain all of that information, but when they were merged, it would merge the old to the new, and we'd actually replace the product ID with the new GS1 EAN number. Very complicated process, right? It took a lot of time, and there were a lot of issues along that process. Just to get one done, it was a nightmare, right? And it isn't necessarily going to work. You know, I've tried to do it since, and they said we can't do it, which doesn't make a lot of sense. But as you guys know, some of the information that they give is poor, and one person will tell you one thing, one person will tell you another thing. So the best thing to do is avoid that situation altogether, right? Source your barcodes from GS1. Now, to source from GS1 costs £119 for a year. You get 1,000 barcodes, right? So it's only 19 pence barcode if you looked at it, you know, distributed out over the 1,000. If you look at it, maybe that's not the best way to look at it, because I'm guessing that you're not going to have 1,000 different products. But if you look at it as sort of, you might use 10 this year, maybe, that'll be £10 a barcode roughly, you know, 11, 12 pounds a barcode. So it's not that expensive. But GS1 is the right way to do it. Now, if you picture yourself, right, launching a product, right, and using a barcode from Barcode Mania. Now, they'll all say on their websites, this is GS1 authorized. It's not, right? I guarantee you, anything that doesn't come directly from gs1.org.uk, and you can give them a ring and they'll clarify, is just inauthentic. And funnily enough, right, guys, so once I realized that my product ID was inauthentic, I ran it against the GS1 database, which you can do online, and it said that I was selling ice cream. So the number was assigned to an ice cream factory in California, I think. You know, an alarm bell started going when I was thinking, definitely don't. I wish I sold ice cream, but I don't sell ice cream, unfortunately. You know, it's dodgy, right? It's a dodgy way of doing things, and if in a year's time, right, you've launched a product today, in a year's time you're making a few £1,000s a month, it's going really well, you've got 50 reviews, you know, you're ranking, and suddenly you get a notification from Amazon saying, we've actually removed this listing, it's already gone now, you're going to need to create another one with a correct GS1 EAN number, because yours was not anywhere on the GS1 database. So that would possibly be a scenario which you would encounter in a year. Now, is it worth it for the sake of 100 quid? It's up to you as a person, really. I mean, it's completely up to you. I understand some people are on budgets when they're starting. You know, there's cheaper ways of doing things, right? Always. I mean, in the previous video where I looked at, can you launch an Amazon FBA business with £1,000? You definitely can do it. Is it recommended by myself? No. Is it typical? Is it a typical amount to start with? No. Do I suggest to start with £1,000? Definitely not. But it's absolutely possible. I've got students who've done it. One of my best friends has done it like 3 months ago in January, launched a product for under £1,000 and did extremely well. But I'm not an advocate for it, right? It's just showing that it is possible. But when you do that, you're likely to encounter potential problems where you may need to sort of get a small loan on a 0% credit card to be able to fund some inventory if you need it now, if things are going very well. Or you may need to have a reduced PPC spend, which might take you longer to rank. It's not ideal, but it is possible, right? But typically between 1,500 and 2,000. But GS1's obviously an additional cost for that. So someone who was starting for 1,000 probably wouldn't go down the GS1 route. So yeah, that's giving you a bit of an insight into how it works. So an EAN number is a European article number, so it's a 12 or 13 digit number, which you'll get from GS1. So quick one, another question that I get asked a lot is, how does your GS1 EAN number fit in with your Amazon barcode, right? So many questions come into my inbox from students basically needing me to talk them through the process. So luckily we've got a learning hub where they can find the answers, but I'll address it to you guys now if anyone is struggling with that, right? How do we send a shipment in? How do we get our barcode? So essentially, we will make the purchase on GS1. They'll give us 1,000 barcodes, right? 1,000 different set of numbers. We only need one per product, right? So one string of 12 numbers, for example, will be the only code you need for your first product. You won't need any of the other ones, right? You could essentially launch 1,000 products with all of those numbers, but let's assume that you just launch one. So you will use one of those string of codes. Now you will have an option on GS1 to create artwork or create a barcode at that stage, which is quite confusing, right? Because you think, oh, must need to create the barcode now. So for Amazon FBA, you can ignore that at that stage, just get the number. You will also notice that it wants you to fill in a load of information like your website and what you sell, etc., etc. Just fill them in as best as you can at this stage because the red circle needs to go green for that number to be active. So just fill them in. You can go back and change them later. Now pull that number out. Take it into your Amazon Seller Central, and when you create your first listing, so manage inventory, create or add a product, there'll be a product ID section where you can put in that EAN number or GTIN number from GS1. Now, it'll give you a drop-down box and it will ask you, is this a UPC code, which is generally in the States? Is this an EAN number? Is it a GTIN? Try a few. GTIN is what it is, but typically it doesn't allow you to save and finish. I don't really know why. So you can set it as an EAN number and usually it lets you save and finish. You can add all your images, your product description, all the bits and bobs, and save and finish, and that listing will then be within your Seller Central, visible within your Seller Central. Now, still no barcodes, right? So if you've got to this stage and your supplier is saying, where are the barcodes? Can you send us a sample so we can stick it on to your sample and show you what it'll look like? You've still got no clue at this stage because it hasn't, been made clear. So you get your Amazon FBA barcode, or what we call an FN SKU, a stock keeping unit, which is what Amazon use to track what the amount of inventory in their fulfillment centers and where they are and things, which centers they're in. You get this when you're creating a shipment. So let's say you ordering 200 units from your supplier and you've placed the deposit of 30%, and 6 weeks go by and they're asking you for the 70% and your barcodes. You're thinking, well, I haven't got the barcodes yet. And you think, I can't create a shipment yet because I don't need it to go in yet. Then, it's not quite finished. You can go into your Seller Central, tick the box next to your product within the Manage Inventory section and create a shipment, right? Set the units as 200 units, follow the different steps that it will take you through. And then it will tell you, or it will actually provide to you, your FN SKUs or your Amazon barcodes. These are the ones that get stuck onto your products individually. They're all identical. So if you send in 200 units, it's 200 of exactly the same set of numbers and letters. And you can print this off. It's a PDF of 200 barcodes. You can then send either all of them or one of them to your supplier, who can then either print them off on stickers and stick them onto your products individually, or they can design them into your artwork of your label. Either or, whichever they are capable of doing, you can pursue either option. They're both the same. As long as it's clear and crisp and scannable, that's the main thing, that it's not faded or scrumpled up, because then when it comes into FBA, they won't be able to scan it, and then you'll have an inbound shipment performance notification, which you don't want. So yeah, that's basically how it works. That's how they all fit in with each other. So it's up to you guys what you want to do. I personally would worry too much about something going wrong in the future. If everything went really well, I would worry that God, it's going to catch up with me. I'm going to get stung. It's not worth it for 100 quid. So you've got two options. I don't want to sort of preach to you guys about what you should do. It's completely up to you. But just so you're fully aware of the process and how it works, you will also have a box label, which you'll also get during the shipment creation process. Now this is what goes on the outside of your 200 units box, and it will at this stage tell you what FBA center your products will be going to. So you won't know that again until you've created the shipment. So you can create a dummy shipment and just finish it later and get all the bits that you need, send them over to the supplier, and then you're done. So hope you found that video useful. If you've lasted this long, well done, because it was a bit of a waffle. It's not the most interesting topic, but it's something that you just need to understand. So I hope you found it useful, and I'll see you in the next one.